Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to another episode of Open for Discussion. I'm your boy, C. Maurice Ball, and today I'm truly excited about the phenomenal, awesome, dynamic young lady that I have on here today. She's a transformation coach. She's a life coach. She's an amazing mom, and she's out here changing lives, just being herself. She's standing her truth, and there's no changing that. And I love that about her. And before we get started, there's going to be something scrolling across the bottom. I want y'all to go ahead and click that and go ahead and join our community. But without further ado, kick that intro. Let's go. Hold on. Let me get us right. Get us right. Yeah, there we go. Well. I am introducing to some and presenting to others. Miss Nita Lawson, this amazing woman of God. How are you today?
Hey, Maurice, how are you?
I am wonderful. So, where you at? You know, you Miss World Traveler. So, where you tapping
I'm a
in
flight
today?
attendant. I'm in Texas today. Today I'm in Texas.
Texas.
Yeah,
Everything's bigger in Texas.
that's what I heard.
So, funny story. So, I normally tell people how I met people that come on the podcast. And so, we attended an event together, and we you know how you just meet people and you just instantly click. So we met each other, we started talking, and I'm like, oh, we just alike. And she was in there doing what she do, and she was a phenomenal host, and she was actually assistant. I don't know if she was actually there to assist, but she stepped in and started serving, and which gives me a I understand. I see a servant and I recognize a servant because I am a servant. So she got in. She got in where she fit in and started making things happen and moving things around and making sure that everybody was good and making sure that everybody was okay. And then we just shared space for that whole weekend, which formed a beginning to a really, really solid friendship. And so I asked her to pull up, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm down." And here we are sitting talking to each other.
Sitting in the room, almost like a living room on your sofa, just
Yeah.
chatting.
So here's the funny thing. So you see our patterns, right? We did not coordinate this. I don't want nobody to be like, oh, look, they decided to dress alike. We
No,
did
it's great.
not
It's,
coordinate. It's crazy. Like I got on my pattern, my floral pattern, and she got on her floral pattern. So this was not even coordinated. So, Miss Nita.
and I normally don't wear green. I wear. This is the first time I wore this outfit. It's something to lounge around the house in, and I don't normally wear green.
You don't
So
like green?
no, not at all. Not on me. No.
Not on you. Green is
No.
cool. That's teal though. That's different.
Well, I think it's the camera because it's pretty green.
Oh, okay.
Green leaves.
Green leaves. I got on teal. Now, everybody don't know you as your first name. So for y'all who follow her in these TikTok streets, this is Miss Concrete Rose. And I just love
Hey.
the name. I love the name. So how did you come up with that name? How did I kind of formed some things in my head as to the meaning of it. Like it could be tough love. It could be I had another one I thought was really dope. Hard love or something. But how did you come up with Concrete Rose? And everybody loves the name that I kind of think is dope.
So it was actually. Oh, I dropped my earring. Hold on.
Guess what we can do? We can edit all that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was actually my daughter, my oldest daughter, who gave me that name because by her being the oldest, she's 31. So she's seen life's ups and downs, the struggles, the everything. She's seen everything. And one day she was just like, "Mom," I'm like, "Yeah." She was like, "You know what?" I'm like, "What?" She was like, "You are a concrete rose," and I was like, "What? What is that?" And she was like, "Go look it up. Go look it up." And so I looked it up, and I don't know if you know, but Tupac always talked about concrete rose, and he has a song that talked about concrete rose. And so I looked it up, and I was like, wow. And it just stuck because the meaning of it basically, for me, it depicts the essence of my resilience. And
Mm.
so, like, concrete is tough for weeds to go through, for anything to go through, to break through, grass, all of that. And so the rose coming out of the concrete is like the rose coming out of the struggle. The like you said, the love, the goodness, the survival, everything that pushed through and made it through the struggle and became this beautiful rose.
Dope. Love it. Love it. Love it. So we got, but sometimes you mess around, you might get more concrete than the rose, but hey.
Thanks.
So where were you originally from?
Chi-town, South Side. South Side of
South
Chicago.
side.
Yeah, that's why we click, because you from like Detroit, right?
I'm from Indy.
You from Indiana? Oh, well,
Yeah.
even better. That's why
It's
we
same
click.
thing.
Same thing.
Same thing. So she's from the south side of Chicago. Born and raised?
Born and raised. I left Chicago in 2008, but I was there my whole life. I was already grown by then.
Okay. Now, are you in your family structure, where do you fall at in rank of siblings? Are you the youngest? Are you the oldest? Are you that middle child?
I'm the oldest. So my father has children. I'm the oldest. My mother has children. I'm the oldest. On both sides, I'm the oldest. Can't you tell?
Uh, it's that my way or no way. I'm a debo you into submission kind of thing. So were you a good big sister?
No.
No.
Not at all. No. So when I wasn't raised with my siblings on my father's side because I didn't even know him at the
Mhm.
time. But being raised with my siblings on my mom's side, I'm gonna say no, and they would probably agree with that. We weren't raised to be close. Like I've raised my kids now, they're all adults, but they have great relationships with each other. Everybody gets along. But myself and my siblings, we weren't raised like that. It was like we were one pitted one against the other. So I didn't like them, and they didn't like me. And we all had different fathers. I was drastically different than my sister and my brother. My brother being the youngest, my sister being the middle child. We were just different. She's more introverted. I am not.
No, you're not it.
I
Really?
I can be, I have some introvert tendencies, but she's very introverted. And I used to be like, I used to want her to play with me and, do makeup and nails, and I was into all of that stuff, and she wasn't. So I think growing up, we didn't understand each other. We weren't taught to accept each other's differences. And
Mm.
my sister was more like my mom. Whereas, come to find out years later, at the age of 42, I was more like my father. So, yeah.
Okay. Kind of got a similar story is that, well, I'm the youngest of three, um, and my my sisters both have different dads, so all of us have a different father, and we were kind of almost raised similar to that, almost. So in that dynamic, as you were growing up and you were trying to form and forge these relationships as a youth, as a young person trying to forge these relationships, what kind of scars did that leave you? Probably you probably say around middle school is when you can start really assessing like your emotions and things like that. So how was that, having to go home and battle and then having to go out in the streets and battle? Did that give you a tough layer of skin
That's where the concrete came from.
Mhm.
Believe it or not, in school, in middle school, I was bullied. I know that's shocking, so shocking. No, it's hard to hear, but I was bullied, and so I would go home and be a bully. I was a
Mm.
bully to my siblings, but I was getting bullied at school as well. And then as time went on, I just developed this hardness where I didn't care. I didn't like anybody. I didn't care if anybody liked me, and I had to have this tough skin um, because everybody. I don't know. It was like, and what's crazy was I didn't bother anybody, but I hate to be the one to say it, but it was like the pretty girl getting picked on. That's kind of what it was. And it was like,
Mhm.
for what? I didn't bother anybody. And I really had a heart for people. I wanted to have friends so bad.
So,
I wanted to have friends,
uh-huh.
and I had a few, but it was like the eighth graders. One girl in particular, she bullied me, and I remember it was one day I went into the bathroom at home, and I was ready. I was in that mirror. I was talking. I was like, "You said what? What'd you say?" I was pumping myself up. I was like, "Tomorrow we gonna do it." I was like having this whole dialogue. And the next day, when I went to school, after I pumped myself up and I was ready, she didn't even bully me. She didn't say anything. Years later, she ended up finding me on Facebook and apologizing.
You know, I was having a conversation with somebody, and she was kind of in your situation, but she was on the reverse side. She was one of the mean girls,
Mm.
and they bullied this young lady for all through high school.
Wow.
And they went to their 10-year reunion, and they seen this, and she seen this young lady, and it's kind of like, who is she? Because she was like this young lady was standing here. She was looking amazing. She was beautiful and everything. And went over there,
Mhm.
and they had their pictures of what they looked like in high school. And she
Mhm.
said that she went over and talked to the lady, and the young lady said that she had to go through 5 years of extensive therapy to get
Wow.
herself right. And she was like, the young lady said, "Hey, I forgive you," and all this other stuff. And the person that I was talking to was like, her life was in a shambles and breaking up and everything. And so it just became this whole thing. So that bullying thing is real. And I don't never, like, it wasn't a term when we were growing up. Like,
Right.
there there was no like, "Hey, let me go tell my people that it was, hey, somebody's picking on me," but it
Right.
wasn't bullying. And picking on you, everybody picked on everybody.
Right. Right.
So it was like, it was no safety measures. There was nobody to talk to. There was nothing in place for us as we try to navigate these streets. So and so what happened is, let me get my thoughts together, because I'm about to jump back to your situation. So you were getting bullied at school. Did you then transfer that at home, and then you started to become the bully at home, because it was like, I'm going to pick on everybody, ain't gonna be able to pick on me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then I also felt like I was being bullied by my mother.
Mm,
So my only outlet would be my siblings. And so according to them, I mean, because like you said, we didn't have the term. So I would pick on them. They would get on my nerves. I used to try to fight them. Um, but then it transferred out to, like, when I got in high school, it was the same thing. Sometimes I would be shut down and reserved,
hmm
and then, but I was also that person that if you bumped me, I'm gonna explode. You don't know what you're gonna get.
hmm
So it had different extremes. When I got in my 20s, that's when I was really tick tick boom.
we go get to those 20s, but early on, how did the relationship, how did that make you view your mom? And this is a two-part question. How did that make you view your mom? And how important do you think that having, if you would have had your father there, that your situation would have been different as far as how you navigate it?
So I knew at an early age that my mother didn't like me. I just didn't know why. Kids can feel it. Kids know. They know. And so I knew early on. And I would find, of course, 2020 hindsight and after therapy and all that stuff, I realized that, so I became a people pleaser. I wanted
Mm,
to please her. I would try to do everything to, look, I did this, look, I did that, look, I did this, look, I did that, to make her like me. But I knew that she didn't like me. She did the necessities. I'm gonna take care of you, food, clothing, shelter. But there was rarely any deep or in-depth conversations or there was hardly any nurturing at
mm,
all, which in turn made me even harder. So there was that. Whether or not my father being in the picture would have mattered, I don't know, because he's different. He he's different. I don't see where they would have gotten along
mm.
for anything outside of what it took to make me. I don't see where
Okay.
they gotten along.
Okay. So now you transition through middle school. You're in high school. Were you were you a troubled high school student? Like I see you have these tendencies to explode. Were you a fighter in high school, or did it push you to become more reclusive?
So I was promiscuous in high school. I didn't care
Okay.
nothing about the little ugly girls. I was trying to get with their boyfriends. I was the Miss I'm gonna take your man
Okay.
in high school. And
Okay.
so a lot of them didn't like me because that was me. I was just like I didn't care. Um, I was a little more reclusive. I think I probably had maybe three friends in high school. I didn't know how to have girl relationships
Mm,
or girl friendships or
mhm.
how to build them or anything. I just didn't know how. Did I want to have girlfriends? Of course. But on the flip side, I didn't care either. You talk to me, you don't, you don't. I didn't care. Um, I wasn't, I had the fight in me, but nobody ever got me to that point where they had to, meet that part of me. But I was boy crazy by then.
Okay.
By the time I got out of middle school and into high school, I was boy crazy.
And you probably you start to develop. You probably started to people. Like you said, you were out here um, being a sneaky link, and now that's like nowadays these young ladies will fight you. Like if you doing that now, they will fight you.
They
So
didn't
so
know.
oh, okay. Now as you kind of matriculated through high school, you still have this anger. So you got this trauma that was created from home. You have no way to really deal with it. You said you really wanted to establish girlfriend relationships, but didn't know how. And as you start to get older and start to get closer to graduation, did you start to kind of realize like you were like there was something wrong, or was that your normal? Like it was like how some things are so out of control or dysfunctional that it just become the norm and you just start to function in the dysfunction.
So I was functioning in the dysfunction, but let me also add, I got pregnant in high school.
Okay.
So I left the regular high school and I went to a all girl pregnant. I don't even know how to say it. I went to a all girl school for pregnant girls, and that's when I really started to see like this is not normal. All these girls up in here, like 14, 15 years old, pregnant. A whole school full of them was weird. But I didn't want to be in the main high school because I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to have to deal with people trying to figure, which they did it anyway, come to find out. They trying to figure out who the baby daddy is.
Hmm.
They named all kinds of people and everybody was wrong. Um, so I started to realize that it wasn't normal. It was actually an Oprah Winfrey episode. That it was one episode she was talking about being molested, and she was talking about how she was talking about her life and how her being molested was a contributing factor to her being promiscuous.
Mm.
So back in our day, again, it wasn't the term; it was called playing house.
Right. Right.
Well, I got played house with a lot from male and female cousins. They called it bumping coochies. Can you say that word on here?
Go ahead. You good?
Oh, okay.
We grown.
They call it playing scissors or
Uh huh.
bumping coochies. That's what
Uh huh.
they. So again, it clicked to me in that moment, like maybe that's why I'm like this. Maybe that's why I'm all boy crazy. And of course, probably the contributing factor of not having a father around, but I didn't know that at the time. But that Oprah Winfrey episode was the one that made me go, okay, something's off. Something's off.
Hmm.
But at that time, I didn't know how to fix it.
Do you feel like if you would have said something back then that somebody would have listened to you?
No, absolutely not. They didn't listen when I finally said something.
Hmm.
No, nope.
And that's a tough place to be in as a young person who have these questions or have this situation and you don't feel like you have nobody to turn to release all that stuff. And so you end up carrying that and it just kind of sits and it then it forms the rest of your life. it,
Yes,
it then becomes how you navigate and how you move forward and things like that. So now now you're out of high school as a mom. Now did becoming a mother at a young age, did that soften you up a little bit? Were you determined to not be like your mother in that aspect, or or was that a relationship that you struggle with as well because you didn't have a good example?
the latter. It was a relationship that I struggled with as well because I didn't have an example. Um, So it wasn't until like my oldest daughter, until she got a little older and the other kids came, that I started to get softer. Like she used to tell them, y'all didn't experience her back when she was younger. Because they would be like, Mom, it's not like that. Mom, she's like, yes, she is. Yes, she is. Because for a while, she wouldn't let me live it down. Even though, therapy changed, all this other stuff, but for a while, she wouldn't let me live it down. And they used to battle. Mom, it's not like that. You didn't know her back then. So she didn't have a good experience of me because I didn't have the example. So it just kind of trickled over. But I think she would say she has a better experience now.
Well, we would hope so that you're still not stuck in 1987. No,
90
1990.
something. She was born in
90.
93.
Yeah. So and in that, so now you got to kind of grow up fast. That learning curve is different because now you're a single mom. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Okay, single mom. Uh, no relate, not a fragment or fractured relationship with your mom. Did you have a relationship with your dad?
I did not have a relationship with my dad. My mother was, when it came to my daughter, though, she was very hands on. She helped take care of her. I think my daughter brought out the softer side of her
Hmm.
because that's when she started to show up a little differently. So she took care of her a lot. There's a story behind my behind my dad. And I'm gonna dip into it real quick because I'm sure you're gonna want to go back to it.
No, no, no. Hey,
But
let's go. Yeah.
okay. So I was raised up to believe that one man was my father. And it's again, as I think I was probably like 11 or 12 when I started to just notice things and started to listen to the adult chatter around me. And I remember, and I'm going to use air quotes. I remember my grandmother saying, "No matter what, you will always be my grandbaby." And I was just like, well, that's weird. I didn't know what that was. I just knew that was weird to say.
Hmm.
Um, and then the guy who was named the father, he was very abusive. He was abusive to me. He was abusive to my mom. He was abusive to his wife. He was abusive to his kids, to the cousins. And I remember thinking, like, no man could ever treat somebody that's their biological child like this, right? I remember thinking that. And so as I got older, one of my older cousins, I would talk to him and I'd be like, I don't think cousin, I don't think he's the father. I don't think it's it. So and I'm also looking at the how I looked and how they looked. I looked at my family, my mother's side, I don't look like anybody. I looked
Hmm.
at his family on the other side. I don't look like anybody. This is what I'm thinking. I'm like, where the hell did I come from? Because I don't look like anybody. And then I remember my mother telling me when I was born, I was super light skinned with blonde curly hair and blue eyes. Well,
Uh-oh.
both of y'all are 8 shades of black. Where'd that come from? Right? Like, 8 shades of black. Where did that come from? And so as I got older, now the questions are coming more and more. And then it was one time as an adult, the named father and I we used to have these big blowouts, and like when he would argue with me, he would argue with me like he was arguing with a random chick. You know what I'm saying? It was
Hmm.
never like a father daughter dynamic. It was just like a random chick. And so one day I remember him saying, "You need to go ask your mama who your real father is. It's probably that nigga Ray." Right?
Wow.
And I never forgot that. I never forgot that. So fast forward, I'm in my 20s at this point, and I'm asking my mother, like, yo, I'm super grown now. Just tell me, girl, just tell me, right? This one, girl, just going to tell me.
Hmm.
And she's like, he is your father. He is your father. I'm like, girl, look at me. Look at me. Look at y'all. Like, no, you holding on to this. Like, no. And so my cousin, he was like, he remembered a guy, and I don't name his name, but I found that particular guy, and I was looking at him and I was like, okay, he's tall, he's light skinned, he could probably be it. So we got in touch, we ended up taking the DNA test, and he wasn't it. Dang. All right. So years passed. My mother is still like, yeah, I told you, it's the named one. I told you, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not buying it. I'm not feeling it. It's not it.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I was like 42 where my sister had bought her then husband ancestry DNA, and so I was like, now I'm gonna see what's in my blood. Not knowing that they match you with people. I'm gonna see what's in my blood. I remember my tia, she would always tell me, girl, something is in you. You mix with something. I don't know what it is, but you ain't all black. You ain't one of us. That's what she would say. You ain't all black. You ain't something is in you. I don't know what it is, but and I'll be like, well dang, okay. So ancestry DNA is out at this point, and now I took it. And I'm taking it thinking that I'm going to get back and show me like you're part this, part that, whatever. Well, a lady ended up contacting me on Facebook, and she's like, "Hey, Nita, wanted to introduce myself. My name is Diana, and I'm your cousin." Scam, whole scam. Ma'am, I don't know you.
Whole scam.
Whole scam. I don't know where you come from, right? And she's like, you took ancestry DNA. And I'm thinking, how the hell does she know that? Total scam. Like, no way. So I logged in while she's in my Facebook chat. I logged in to Ancestry DNA. And when I logged in, the banner at the top says, Donald McGraw is your father.
What?
Who?
He said, "Who?"
Who? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So now I'm messaging this lady, ma'am, I need, okay, we need to talk. Can you call me? And so got her on the phone and she started explaining ancestry DNA to me and all these centimorgans and all this stuff. And I'm like, how does this say that this man is my father? How is it saying that? And she's like, well, he would have had to take the test.
Oh,
And I was like, okay, so there are some other people listed. They're like, this other person was listed, first cousin, second cousin, all this stuff came up. And I can barely breathe. Okay. I went on Facebook and I contacted one of the cousins. He looked younger. I'm thinking probably easy to contact. So I screenshot Ancestry DNA. And I'm like, hey, is this you? And he's like, oh yeah, hey, that's me. And I was like, so do you know this person? And he was like, oh yeah, that's my Uncle Ray. Pause. Remember what I said? That the name father said?
uh huh,
It's probably that Ray. Remember I
uh
said
huh.
that? Yeah. So he was right. And I went on Facebook. I found my biological father's Facebook page. That was the first time in my life that I saw somebody that looked like me. My whole face, he just bald head.
Mm.
And got in contact with him. He wanted to take another paternity test outside of ancestry, and we did. 99.999%. Um, little caveat to that is his last name is McGraw because his mother, like my mother, gave him the last name of somebody that was not his father.
uh,
His father's last name is actually Lawson, which is why I use Lawson and not McGraw. So yeah, that's the little story about my father. So I don't think him being around would have. There's a little more to that that I can go
right.
into.
That you kept, but the gist of it is that I mean, there's a lot to pull out of that, and I'm not going to hover in that a lot, but I just got a couple of questions because a lot of that stuff starts to dictate how you move and how you navigate. You said something we'll go about your mom kind of got softened when your daughter was born. Do you
Yeah,
think that your mom was trying to make up for the lack of relationship that she had with you and was using, and was going to try to make sure that she did everything for your daughter?
I think so. I think because at this point now she's older. And I didn't hold when I got older. I didn't hold it against her because she couldn't do what she wasn't taught. Because my
Right.
grandmother was the same way. So it was like a trickle down effect. So she couldn't do what she wasn't taught. And I think with my daughter, it brought out the softer side of her. Maybe she did want to make it up. The other part too, why my mother was the way she was towards me is, according to her and the stories that I've told, it was an unwelcome pregnancy,
Oh,
if you
got you.
can follow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
they were teenagers, and my dad just right away went off to the military. And so she named the other person to be the father instead. But then I came out looking like my dad and not the other person.
So you light skinned with good, with the Indian in your family hair, right?
It's
Like,
actually very little Indian, but it's more Hispanic and Caucasian. Great
okay,
great grandfather, my great grandfather was a white slaveholder. And then my great grandmother was biracial.
okay,
So yeah.
okay. Now, so now you kind of putting the pieces together, and how did it feel? How did you feel as a young person in your 20s, knowing that you don't look like either side of these people, and you were still trying to like say, I know something's not right. They're lying to me. Did that put a further wedge between you and your mom? Because
Me and my mom and me and the name father. Cause
uh-huh,
oh y'all lying? Why y'all lying? But everybody back then, adults, they had their secrets.
right.
They would have, and by the time I found out who my biological father was, both my mom and the name father had already been deceased.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they weren't even around to know that it happened.
Did you get a chance to reconcile with your mom before she passed?
I did. So I moved in 2015, I moved to Atlanta. And the last day I saw her was the day I moved, was July 2nd. Um, and then somewhere in between there, she had an issue with one of my sons. Come to find out later on, my mother had some mental health stuff going on. So she had an issue with one of my sons. I think she had slapped him or something. I don't remember all the details. But anyway, she and I had a falling out because she would just go off the radar, name calling, right? So she did that for the last time. And then at that point, I set the boundary. All these years, you have not changed. Therefore, I am not in a position to accept this behavior any longer. So I had wrote her a letter and basically told her, I forgive her, I love her. However, comma, until you are ready to change your behavior, I'm gonna be over here and you can be over there. And I wrote that letter, I think October 7th, and she was found dead October 15th.
Wow.
No, well, no, I take that back. I think it was October 15th. I wrote the letter. She was found dead October 23rd. And it was my other son that found her.
Okay. Okay. Um,
Am I messing you up? You okay?
I'm good. Nah, I'm just trying to form my questions, because there's some other things that you said that I think, I mean, all this is important, right? And and what I desire is that somebody hears something in your life, like you're not the only one that has experienced this, and somebody might hear something in how you resolved it or reconciled it, and find their peace, find their solace, find the strength to be able to move forward and do a reconciliation with their estranged parents. But
Yeah, so my goal was to make sure. I've always had the thought process that if somebody passed away, I didn't want to carry the guilt of unforgiveness. So
yeah.
one thing I learned, because I was raised up in church and I knew God and I knew about forgiveness, and I didn't ever want to carry that burden of the guilt of unforgiveness. So I knew enough to set the boundary, even though it didn't have a word at the time, because now that word is flying off the handles, but it didn't have a word at the time. Um, but also to let her know that I forgave her. I think if my mother would have died and I didn't write that letter, that would have
Ooh.
messed me up.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. That I would have been a little.
Because what
I
you
would
would
have been
did,
a
you would
little
have
hectic.
walked through your life at the many times that you had opportunities to say something and never said nothing, and that just would have beat you up more and
Yeah.
more and more. So, There is power in forgiveness. And I often say that unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
To die. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have these moments, right? These roller coaster moments, and you're having as you're trying to figure out who Nita is, and you're trying to figure out how to be a mom, and trying to figure out how to fit in society, and you're trying to figure out all these other pieces. I'm actually this one thing popped up that you said, and I want you to explain, see if this had any um, weight or bearing on how you navigated just in life. You said that you was always trying to please your mom. Did that become a staple as to being a people pleaser in general, or was it just your mom that you were trying to please?
I became a people pleaser in general. But what's weird about that is that I didn't know that.
Hmm.
I didn't know I was a people pleaser. It wasn't until my last marriage when that was falling apart and I was talking to one of my friends that I had met on TikTok, and he's into mental health. Shout out to Kyrie. I was talking to him and he was like, you're codependent. You're a people pleaser. Who, me? And I was like, I don't give a hell what people think. That was my attitude. I don't give a hell what people think. But I kind of did, but I didn't know that I did.
Hmm.
And when I looked back on my life, everything that I had done, it was to please somebody else.
Mm.
It was to take care of somebody else. It was to please somebody else. And I always needed somebody to need me. That's how I felt validated and important.
Oh, so yeah. Ooh. Did that play? So now you're in your 20s. When was your first marriage? How old were you?
26, I think. 26 or 27, something like that.
Did that play a part in your marriage?
Oh yeah, and
Okay.
because he brought to the nothing to the proverbial table. Um, but I was pregnant. Now, by the time I got married, I was already 4 kids in. I was pregnant with my fifth child when I married him. So by 26 years old, within a span of 10 years, from 16 to 26, I had 5 children. Every 2.5 years, I was popping out a baby.
Mm.
So
Was
by the
that
time, hmm?
and then just thinking through that, was that as because you just said it like the desire to be needed, was that like something that you subconsciously did because as the kids gets older the less they needed you, and the more, so you're saying, okay, I need somebody that needs me, so you're feeding that need.
You don't even know it though.
Wow.
You have no idea. It's not a. It's you're not saying in your head, "Oh, I need another one. Oh, I need
Right.
another one." That's not how it's happening. But you have these subpar relationships where they're needing you, and then you're feeling good because they're needing you, and now you get pregnant, and now you're gonna have their baby, and now they're gonna need you more, and now the baby's gonna need you too. But you don't know this until you're out of it. It's like you
Hmm.
look back through the glass window and you're like, whoa, that's what was happening.
Okay. And how did that relationship go? How did you, I mean, one, you're talking about, if you just laid the cards on the table, a man that was willing, or have the appearance of being willing to be a father to 4 other children. Um, how did that relationship go? Was it toxic? Were you still fighting a lot of the things that you had grown up with at 26, 27? You're only a few years removed out of some broken, damaging situations, so you really have no time to put the pieces together. It's not like it is now where you have mental health and people that you could talk to, so it's kind of patchwork.
It was definitely patchwork. It was absolutely toxic. Um, You choose people based off your level of trauma.
Mm,
So he was, and all the others were chosen off of my level of trauma. We were chosen off of the level of worth that I had for myself, which was in the gutter. You know, I knew I had a pretty face, but that was it. And to me, if your parents don't like you, who does? Who
mm,
really does? And then you learn how to use your body to get what you want or to get what you need. So I learned that at a pretty young age. Oh, I learned how to manipulate and use what I had to get what I wanted or needed. So yes, with him it was very toxic. He was a cheater. He ended up using drugs. He left, I don't know how many different times, and came back till finally I got enough oomph to say, yeah, no, I don't need this. You can go and stay gone. And I had just enough oomph to do that. But then if you're not healed and you didn't deal with the stuff, you're going to turn around and pick the same thing right back up again. And that's
right.
why,
Just a different shell.
exactly.
Same trauma. We have a mutual friend. He goes by the relationship gumbo, and he says it's called trauma picking.
Yeah.
And I dig that term. And 'cause here's the first time I heard it was with him. So you trauma picked people that matched your trauma. Now,
Subconsciously.
did you get remarried again?
So I did. At
Right.
this time, at this point, now I'm marrying for survival. Now I'm
Okay.
looking. Now I have enough sense to look for somebody that can benefit me and these kids. So then
Right.
I marry somebody in the military because now you have stability
Right.
and you can handle myself and these kids. Life was good at that point. We moved to San Diego. I got out of Chicago. I started seeing new things, exploring new things, and learning more about myself, learning more about, oh, I think I have to sneeze. Oof. Learning more about the type of woman that I wanted to be. So I'm growing up. I'm starting to grow up at this
Hmm.
point. Yeah. So
So during that process, were you actively trying to become, like repair the patchwork and really become healed in some areas?
I was, but I still wasn't sold on therapy. At this point, I was watching Iyanla fix my life.
Okay. Okay.
Shout out to Iyanla because she helped me a lot, right? I learned a lot from her, but therapy was still kind of taboo because it was my oldest daughter that would be like, "You need to go to therapy, and we need to go to therapy because somebody can put you in your place and check you." So I was like, "What? Who doing that?" It wasn't appealing, and nobody was talking about it around me, right?
Hmm.
I didn't really start to hear about therapy until it was like pertaining to the military. You know, yeah, y'all got some PTSD, go to therapy. Then when the marriage started having trouble, then it was go to marriage counseling. So slowly but surely, and I believe God was just like dropping little nuggets here and
Hmm.
there where you look back 2020 hindsight, you're like, oh, that was the clue right there, or that was a clue right there. um so yeah, that therapy just it slowly crept up, but I was more into Iyama fix my life. I was learning a lot from Iyama. Shout out,
So in this process, um, at what point did God become real to you in this process? And where at on this spectrum?
see, I was always serving God. I was in the church. I was on the praise and worship team. Some of my friends would take me to church with them when I wasn't with my family or mother or anything like that. Um, when I moved to Atlanta in about 2015, that's when I really started to learn about deliverance. Um, but I just remember thinking, I have nobody in this world but God. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't have any adults to talk to, so I knew how to pray.
Okay.
I knew how to pray. And I would always just go pray. God would just always just guide me. But the problem was sometimes I made decisions without praying. I just did what I wanted to do. But
As
I
we all
believe,
do.
right. And I believe that had I sat still and prayed and listened, things would have been differently. Things would have gone differently, I mean.
Well, you learn by wisdom or you learn by consequence.
I learned by
And
both.
and sometimes it's a combination of both. Absolutely understandable. Now, in this transition, like you got some like it's some this is some really good like life application stuff because I know for a fact that some of the people that's going to be listening to this are going to be able to pull from your life. I know that. What is as you were trying to change, you now you're a mom of five, you're trying to become this woman, you're trying to establish relationship a relationship with your daughter, you're trying to get make sure that your kids have a different experience growing up so that they're close and everything. And how big was when you said you learned deliverance in this whole process of everything that you had going on, how big was being delivered from people or was being, let me see how to say this. How big of a role do you believe that being delivered from people helped you move forward?
I think it was huge because one thing that I believe God showed me was that people are human and they're going to almost always let you down. When I went to that ministry in Atlanta, where I learned more about, because I had been introduced to deliverance before, but this time it was like more in depth. And in my mind, these people are the creme de la creme, right? They are saved, Holy Ghost filled, wonderful people. And I'm in Atlanta and I'm going to learn from them, and they're going to be the family that I didn't have. And they dropped the ball. They did
Mm,
not turn out to be what I thought that they were going to be. And I think in that, God allowed me to learn more about deliverance, learn more about healing, but also deliver me from people, from being codependent and from needing to be needed, right? And that was a very traumatic experience with those people because to have your pastor run you through the mud, and you run your best friend and her husband through the mud, it was very interesting and a whole lot of lessons learned. But I think in that, that's where I really learned like, dang God, like it's just me and you. I had a whole email created, just Jesus and I, because it's really, and when I think back on my life, it's really just been him and I, but it was me that kept grasping at the straws, trying to hold on to people.
hmm
And God's like, no, I'm right here. I need you to hold on to me.
And let the people go.
Let the people go.
Mm,
Yeah.
that is, that's I think deliverance from people is the best, biggest, most dynamic deliverance that you can have
Yeah.
because it allows you to move freely without the care of what people think about you. And you can have, and God says a certain thing about you, and it's easier to say, okay, God, like I'm not worried about what the people think, what the people gonna say, how the people gonna look at me, how the people gonna perceive this. I'm moving forward. But there's a lot of people who can't get beyond what people think.
It's hard. It's not that it's not a daily struggle. You have to be intentional. Even now, I have to be intentional. Sometimes there are things I want to say, do, post, or whatever, and I'm like, ugh, what are people going to think? People going to
Mm,
think like, how are you up here singing praise and worship, but you was a whole thought over there. You know what I mean?
right.
So it's still you have to be intentional about and not having it's not an attitude of I don't care what people think. It's more like what people think, it doesn't matter. What does God say about me? That's what matters
Right.
to me. And that's who I need to work to please, because I will be forever trying to please a human because they're insatiable. You can never please them, but I can
Right.
work on pleasing God, and that's just a daily, consistent effort that I still work at this day. So
We all do. That line of perfection, only one person in this whole world ever has been on that side. Everybody else falls under the category of flawed, damaged, and broken, and every other adjective that you could use to explain people. Okay, so now you at this place. You so I'm assuming that marriage failed or ended.
a little bit of both.
Okay, and what was it more so you say, was it you or him, or was it a combination of y'all both just not being able to get on the same page?
No, it was me. It was me deciding that for okay. So let me back up. I ended up finding out that he was still legally married to somebody else.
Okay,
Nothing I can do with that. I'm gonna
right.
go ahead and let you go. Benefits were great. Military life was great. But to me, it wasn't worth holding on to because again, I'm evolving and I'm starting to realize what I need. And the kids they're good. They're getting, they have good schools, clothing, they have that kind of stuff. But it's starting to look bigger to me, and I'm
Hmm.
realizing that I'm not getting what I need. And then he cheated, so get out. Yeah,
Got you. We ain't got to revisit that. Um,
go cut him off.
but that created a scar. That created something, right? How long were y'all married?
I think 4 years.
Okay. And how are your children? How are y'all's relationship? Were you at a place where you were stable, where you could take care of yourself, or did you repeat a pattern and go back and try to get into another relationship um that was going to benefit you and meet your need?
So no, I was able to take care of myself at this point. I'm doing hair. I have a couple licenses under my belt. I was always evolving. I was never stagnant. So whatever license I could get, I got it, from CNA to cosmetology instructor. I was always leveling up in some way. Um, and then I still had military benefits. So the military was still helping out until it took a minute for the divorce to become final.
Hmm.
And at this point, we were living in San Diego. So when we split, I left, and that's when I came to Texas. And came to Texas, and I opened up a salon. The I think right up 20, I forgot what year it was, but when the divorce became final, that's when the military, and he retired also. He got out the military. And so when he retired, that's when the benefits, kind of changed up because they were paying for the rent and everything. So I didn't have too much to worry about. Um, Opened my salon, got that started, and a couple years later, because I was married 3 times, so met my last ex-husband. And at that time, I was in a place where I was ready to get married for me,
Hmm.
not for stability for the kids, not for any other reason. But now I think I kind of know what love is, and I want it, and I want to give it, and all this other stuff. Um, so that's when I got married for me. My youngest daughter the two youngest ones, they were in high school at the time, And then they graduated high school. He and I, we got married. We met on a dating app.
Okay.
Um, and it started
Harmony
out great.
which dating app was it? Oh no, they not paying us, so don't take their name. So you met on the
Right, we
dating
ain't shouting them out.
app.
They're not sponsoring, so we're not shouting. Um, it was good, you know. I thought the marriage was good. I was blissful. I'm like, I got my husband. I'm married for. I'm like literally saying out of my mouth, I got married for me this time, not for what everybody else needed or what everybody else would approve of. And that ended up falling apart literally a year afterwards. Um, he cheated. You like, dang, why do you keep getting cheated? He doesn't think he cheated though, but I know it's funny. A lot of people don't think he cheated, but I think he cheated. Um, but that wasn't why it ended. For me, that wasn't why it ended because I was still willing to work past that.
Uh-huh.
The reason it ended was because there was a lack of mutual effort. I wanted to go to counseling, coaching, therapy, and whatever we needed to do, whoever we needed to talk to. But he wasn't willing to do it to the extent that it needed to be done. And what I mean is, he would go to one session, and if it wasn't going his way, and if he didn't hear what he needed to hear, then
Hmm.
he was done with it. Um, and then also, by his own admittance, I would say, let me see, March, April, May, 3 months after we got married, he changed up. Now, and I know you've heard women say that before, right? Like, oh,
Hmm.
after we got together, he changed. And you probably like, no, all the signs were there. Literally, by his own admittance, he told me why he changed up. And when I say changed up, meaning it was like this stone cold wall came over him.
Mm.
And basically, what it was, without putting all his business out there, was that he had past stuff that he hadn't dealt with from his childhood and from his past relationship. And now here I am. He was thinking he was ready for a wife and everything else when he wasn't. And some things I would do and say would trigger him
Hmm.
back into his former relationship where the wife at that point was abusive. And so here I am. I don't know that I'm triggering him. I don't know what's going on. All I know is he switched. And now I'm at arm's distance. Get over there, stay over there. You
Hmm.
can you can feel the coldness, right? And so um I'm not the person that says we're gonna stay. Well, even in Texas, you can't even do legal separation. If you're either gonna be married or you're not. And so I filed the papers. He didn't want to sign them, but he did. And I just I walked away because it was nothing to hold on to.
In that, I see this a lot. Even experienced it in to a certain extent in my own marriage. When you talk about um, effort, when one person is giving the effort and the other person's not, it 9 times out of 10 it ends up bad. And I
Hmm.
can say there was periods, short periods, real short periods where my effort was just like, you know what, this is I don't have it in me to do this anymore. But then, at the end of the day, you made the best choice that was going to be the best choice for you and your peace and your sanctity. So you went from trauma picking to being trauma picked.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that is a people don't realize that like you were ready and he had the appearance of being ready until he wasn't.
Until he wasn't. And what makes That even crazier was so in that I became very depressed. This is the first time where I can literally say I was depressed. Hair falling out. At 46 years old, I got shingles. And my doctor was like, yo, what is going on in your life? Something is stressing you because you should not have shingles at this
Mm,
age. I had shingles. And how he treated me when I had shingles, like I was a plague, like I was a walking disease. Um, but what's crazy was it was TikTok that helped me. It was the people that I met on TikTok. I would get on TikTok and I just started talking to people and I started meeting solid people. I was that person that would be on a live and somebody would ask me a question or something about my life, what was going on, and I'm there sobbing. But then I started getting coaching from some of the coaches that I didn't even know were coaches on
hmm
TikTok. TikTok
hmm
was a saving grace. However, still hadn't remembered at this point, I still hadn't gone to therapy and dealt with my traumatic childhood. So deep down in there somewhere, there's still the ability to pick from your trauma. So now I'm depressed. I can't figure out how did this happen. I'm ready to love, and this man he was supposed to love me and all this other kind of stuff. So now we're falling apart, and then here comes this big, tall, 6'8" stallion to the rescue. I'm gonna save you. I'm gonna give you the love that you need, and I'm like, yeah, yes, yes. And now patting my chest because everybody wants somebody that's 6'8", but boom, I got him. And he has a job and he has all this other stuff. Child, not knowing that was the devil himself.
Six
Okay.
eight with a job will do it to you.
Yes. Bald and bearded.
Oh,
Okay.
he checked off
Bald
all
and
the
bearded.
boxes, the
Listen,
aesthetic
and
boxes.
he talked about God, and
Oh,
he was into my kids, and he was very loving and all this other, not realizing that it was about to switch and toxicity was going to come out. And now it was, what's the movie? I can't think of what's that movie. There's a movie where the lady, and there's a play where the lady left her husband and then she got with the guy, the light skinned, cute, super cute dude, and then he ends up being abusive and crazy.
it
That's
was
what,
A Medea play.
I
Uh,
can't think of the name of it, but that's what happened.
Not the
Um,
Diary of a Mad Black Woman, right?
nope, not
But
that one.
I know, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so then that's how now here's my childhood in my face again as an adult. Now I'm being called names. Now I'm being uh, browbeaten because I don't want to have sex. Fast forward, now it's getting progressively worse to the point where now I find myself choked out in the front seat of a pickup truck
hmm
and my life is being threatened. How in the heck that at my big age, I would do all of this? I was supposed to be better, and now I end up getting choked out? Like, what? How did this happen? Because the root of it was never taken care of.
Right.
That trauma was never taken care of, which is how I was able to connect with a person like that and not really see him for who he really was, which was a monster, really. So now, okay, now I'm in therapy. I'm in therapy for real now. I'm sitting in the closet like, yo. now, now I'm like, hold on. Somebody's gonna talk to me. Hey, how you doing? Now I'm in therapy. Sitting in my closet like, hey, I need help. I need help. And that's when I really got into therapy. And again, of course, I'm going to click back to God. Like, I'm in the closet. Listen, this is where it came full circle for me. After that incident, because my closet was my safe place, right? And um, after that incident, like the next day, I was literally in the closet, just, I don't think I had ever cried so much in my life, sobbing profusely. And I just remember thinking, I've been abused my whole life.
Mm.
And I was like, God, like I was just like, oh my God. I'm like hysterically crying because now it clicked. I have literally been, you remember hearing that through the whole story I just told you?
Mm-hmm.
I literally, but it didn't register, because I was a suppressor. I'm
Mm.
suppressing, move on, suppress, move on, suppress, move on. I'm in survival mode, suppress, move on. In that moment, that's when it clicked. I've been abused my whole life. This is a problem. We got to fix this because this can never happen again. That's when I was like, therapy. We got to talk about this. Somebody got to help me because this is not. I don't see my life being like this. I'd be doggone if I'm gonna be 40 something, 50 something years old being abused by anybody. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, especially now, you from the South Side of Chicago, and we know we
Listen,
ain't gonna, hey, we ain't gonna
I
put
had
that out.
two pew
We just
pews.
just know, if you know, South Side Chicago in her 50s, rub her the wrong way, there might be some problems.
I had two of them. I had two of them locked and ready. Okay,
we
two.
we just we you know it,
I had to the day I left. Um, there was a lot of browbeating that day, a lot of browbeating. And I just remember saying to myself, be cool, Nita, be cool, because I'm at the point now, I can't take it anymore. And nobody knows that this is going on, not even my children. Nobody knows because I was able to what's the
mask
word?
it.
One, yeah, I was able to mask it, but I was able to de-escalate him
Hmm.
so that nobody would ever see what was going on. Even the church we were going to, everybody thought he was this wonderful man of God and all this because I would de-escalate and I would smile. I'm a TikTok smiling and all these pictures with the dude with the motorcycle and I didn't want those pictures. I don't like to live fake. He wanted those pictures. I feel like post these pictures up, be on TikTok smiling for what? Because I'm really not smiling in real life at all.
Mm.
And that particular day, I was like, I know me, and I knew I can't, I have nothing left. I don't have the capacity to suppress it and de escalate him anymore. I don't have the capacity to do that. And we were at the phone store and he said to me, the last thing he said to me, threat was, he said, you got an attitude, you better get rid of your attitude. Don't make me F you up. And I remember looking up at him and I was like, did you just threaten me in this store? At this point, now I'm loud because I'm trying to bring attention to the situation.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I didn't have a plan. I thought, okay, I had a plan, but I didn't have the opportunity to execute my plan. I had a plan of exit. I didn't have a plan, the opportunity to execute it. And long story short, I called the police and I was like, I need y'all to come up here because I can't guarantee you that I'm not going to do something. I can't. So they came. And I remember this cop saying, he was giving me what I call the battered woman talk. Hey, ma'am, you don't have to take this. I said, listen, hold on. This is not what you're here for. I don't need that talk. I said, you're here to protect him. You're here to protect him. I said, I have two locked and loaded in my house. And if I go to that house and he comes to that house, y'all gonna be showing up on a different call. Not even kidding. Because I was way up there with it.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that girl that was a fighter? Then she,
Mm-hmm.
then she suppressed that and she tried to be a nice girl and be what people needed. Well, now
Mm-hmm.
that fighter, now she's back. She's back and she's ready to. You gonna get it for everybody that ever hurt me in my life. I'm about to light
Right.
you. So, long story short, ended up moving out. I had just moved in that house 3 days prior, and the property manager of that property, come to find out, she had also been a DV survivor, and she helped me. I had to go stay with my daughter for a good month, and until he got his stuff and got out of town. And she was able to help me get into another place. I had to get with the sheriff's department and the domestic violence survivor counselors here in San Antonio and everything. But I'm knee deep in therapy. I was getting therapy from two different places. From my regular therapist, no, for I was not playing. I was not playing because my thought process is this will not be my life. I've always
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be a good example for my daughters, and now because they didn't know what was going on until the day I left. That's when they found out, that moment when I left. Now I have to show them, okay, now you know that this happened. Now I have to show you how you bounce back. And we're not going to stay in a domestic violence relationship, but this is how we're going to survive this. And this is how we're going to push past it. I was getting double therapy and a coach, two therapists and a coach. I was very serious about pushing past and healing past that and not wallowing in victimhood. I wasn't going to do that. So here we are.
And here we are. Now, um, do did your any of your children pick up any of your um trauma stuff? Like when you look at your daughters, did did they have a pattern of following you a little bit? Did your sons have a pattern of, because they're seeing some of this, right? Like there's experienced some of it. And did they fall into any of those categories?
My sons, they kind of dance to the beat of their own drum. My daughters, yes, some of them became people pleasers. They anxious attachment. They had the cool thing about my daughters is they came up in a time where therapy is talked about,
Yeah.
and right away in therapy, right away.
Okay.
So they didn't have to go a lifetime of with their stuff. The youngest one, I think she was in therapy before she was even out of high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, they did pick up some things, but and they listen. They listen to when I, tell them, hey, get a coach, hey, go to therapy. This might be what this is. This might be what that is. Like I've seen this before because now I'm on the outside looking in. Now I've
Hmm.
seen this before, and so yeah, the good thing is that they listen and that they've taken the steps and still do take the steps to deal with their own issues and how they were traumatized growing up.
And so it's like it's became 360. Like it's you've grown, and so now it makes sense that the concrete rose is the handle that you use, because it's a full 360. Not that you came back to the same place, but life has just circled you all the way around to bring you back to now where you could take your life lived experiences and become a advocate and a voice to those that you coach, those that you encounter, those that somebody introduce you to. So to your daughters, you could be an example of what strength under control is, which is meekness. But also being able to say, if you cross the line, I got something for you. I got something for
Right.
you.
No, exactly. Because
Um,
you have enough tough skin to stand up for yourself and
for
learn
sure.
self-worth.
And now, as a mother, do you have a relationship with your children that you didn't have? Did you create that environment to where your children, you're nurturing, you're engaging, your mom?
Yes, we have a great relationship. I think they would agree that
Okay.
and especially my oldest, she's seen me grow up pretty much.
Uh-huh.
And we kind of, we're more like big sis, little sis, but I'm still your mama type deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
still your mama, don't cross that line, but we're able to have great conversations and everything. And she still has a level of trauma that she has to deal with from just her own life experiences. But she's at the age, she's 31, she's at the age where she listens and she listens to the transformation team all the time. So she's working through her stuff. And now I get the pleasure of watching her come out. You know what I mean?
And
So it's
blossom.
good. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the transformation team, so for y'all who don't know, she is a transformational coach, and she is out here changing lives and doing big things. And she's part of this team that go live and just coach people. And they are out here speaking truths and helping people navigate these single lives that are one desire to be in relationships. Excuse me. um People who are over 45, people who are men that are out here still trying to get in. They created this whole space where they have these coaches, and Miss Nita here is an amazing coach that I'm not sure if she's taking clients right now, but if she is taking clients, I need to pull up on her and get all up in her DMs and support her because she is doing some amazing things. And speaking of that, let's take a look at of your at your Instagram. I mean, oh, Instagram, your TikTok,
My TikTok, oh Lord.
your TikTok. Y'all go follow my girl, Coach Concrete Rose underscore Nita. She is out here in these TikTok streets doing some amazing things, touching lives, transforming lives. And I am just grateful that you came and you shared your story. And I'm sure there's way more stuff. Oh, she got some stuff coming up. So what's on tap that you got coming up that the
Are you
people
there?
can look out for? So you're working on some things and you got some things coming up. What you got on tap that's going to be out here in the next couple of months? What you working on?
So first, let me say yes, I am with the transformation team, and the team does go live every Sunday at 8:30 Eastern. However, you will not see my face on there. I'm more in the background, working behind the scenes now because as my rose blossomed, I became a flight attendant. And so my schedule doesn't permit for me to go live on Sundays with them as I used to. So I'm working in the background. I won't be taking clients again until probably October. Once my schedule starts to iron out completely. However, right now I have a journal in process of being made. It should be out, I would say 2 to 3 weeks, give or take. It is called A Concrete Rose, and it's basically a journal that's going to help women with resilience, build their resilience and their confidence. Because that's my goal as a coach. You know, initially I thought my niche would be to help domestic violence survivors, but then I realized that in order for you to be able to survive domestic violence, you have to be able to build your resilience and your confidence. And so that's my goal as a coach is to help women build resilience and confidence. So that's what's coming out. It's being made now. I'm so excited because I've been trying to do this for a long time. And after we get that out, then the book is going to come out. But right now, keep an eye out for the journal. It's beautiful. It's my baby. So I'm excited for that.
Well, we're gonna keep the people updated when it come out. We're gonna support it. We're gonna cop it. We're gonna do what we do. Um, I do have one last question for you though.
Okay.
um, I love this question. What is something that you didn't pay attention to early on that you had to learn the hard way?
In regards to
Life.
something I didn't pay attention to early on that I had to learn the hard way. Whew. Will you give me a question that's going to stump me at the end? Something, I think one of the things that I didn't pay attention to when it comes to myself is realizing that I had an issue with self worth and self esteem, and realizing that I had a false sense of self confidence. Meaning, on the outside, you would think that I thought that I was all of that and good, but on the inside, I really didn't think I was, but I didn't realize it. I think I didn't pay attention to that, and had I paid attention to that, things would have been a little different.
That is a excellent answer. There's no wrong or right answer to that. Value, self worth, it keeps you from putting yourself into positions where somebody that never handled $100 bill before, and you devalue yourself down to a quarter. It keeps you out of those kind of situations,
Yes.
because you know that you're worth more than the person that's handling you.
Ooh,
Um,
you better
so
talk.
I'm not about to ride that pony because I can.
You better talk,
Yeah.
man.
So that is that's amazing. That and I believe that, again, the people that listen to this, a lot of women are in that space. A lot of women are trying to figure out their value and the hands that are holding and carrying them. So for you to say that, that's going to be able to be a trigger, a good trigger for somebody to be like, you know what? I need to be in that space where I understand that I'm worth more than the people that are handling me.
Yes, I told that to my oldest daughter not too long ago because she's single. She just moved to a new city. She has one son, and she's starting to date. And she told me about a guy, and I said, "Remember, you are in a position now that you don't have to settle. You don't have to take what you don't want. So I need you to write down and think about what you want. Think about what your standards are, and then stick to that. You don't have to settle for, because we used to, as single parents, oh, well, he has a child, well, he has this, well, that type of deal. No, and she was like, oh my God, mom, that just hit. Yeah, nobody ever had that conversation with me. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's you know what I can appreciate, out of your situation, and hopefully as my son grows, as I mean he's 18 now, about to be 19, that you're saying something and you said that she's listened.
Hmm.
That's all I just need you to listen. And so I
Yeah.
can appreciate that about your relationship, and understanding now the history of your journey to this particular space right here, right now, and the lives that you're going to touch, the people that are going to be changed because of your story, and the way that God has orchestrated it. Sometimes we have to be the ones that are trailblazers, which means that we have to be the ones that cut down the trees and start to begin to lay the path for somebody else to walk on, which means we're going to face the bulk of some of these situations like you were in.
Yeah.
You were maxed out in a lot of these situations, not because God didn't care, but was because God cared. And God
Mhm.
wants to use your life to be able to be an example to several other people, that hundreds of and thousands of people that are going to connect to your story. So I appreciate you pulling up on the podcast. Cash, you got anything else you want to say to the people?
I want to say to the people that I need y'all to jump on this transformation cruise that we're having.
For sure.
I
I
need you to
have a
get.
QR code to put up, but let me see. I do have a QR code for that.
Yay!
Out there. I think that's yeah,
There we go.
yeah. I believe it's the bigger one, the bigger of the two. The bigger of the two is the cruise. So if you click that QR code right there, then it will take you to the cruise, what the cruise is going to be about. You can read about it, but definitely, definitely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
That's all I was gonna say. I just need the people to get on this cruise because it's gonna be an amazing time. It's gonna be a lot of love and fun and relaxation and rejuvenation. And we have a big announcement that's gonna come on the cruise, so it's gonna be nice. And I thank you for letting me come on here and chat it up and chew the fat with you. So this was exciting. This was exciting, and I'm looking forward to having these conversations even more with many, many people that I can help.
Well, hey, anytime you want to pull up, you more than welcome to come and hang out with me. Or if you got something that you want to do, hey, I'm all for it. But look, hey, you've been chilling with C. Maurice Ball and Miss Nita Lawson. I love you like a play cousin, and I'm out.
Me too.
Peace.